Hi, I'm Greg Sizemore, President and founder of the Construction Users Roundtable, commonly called CURT. You can find out all about us by accessing our website, CURT, that's CURT.org. But CURT is essentially an organization that focuses on the needs of the owner, institutional, and industrial. And we have three things we like to say we do together with each other. Number one, we share perspectives, we share experiences, and we share resources. We're about such things as safety, workforce development, mental health awareness, modularization and pre-assembly, procurement and contracting. Those are the things that concern the owner, is what we typically pick up and run with. We also have a cadre of wonderful specialty trade contractors who are part of us, both general and specialty contractors, as well as some union organizations. So we want to be inclusive, we want to be collaborative, and actually construction's a hard business, and we want to be able to help. And one of the ways we've done that in this year is we've launched this series of podcasts. It's called Construction Connections, powered by CURT. And we have a number of illustrious guests on this podcast who are very distinguished in their careers. And today is no exception. And we are very delighted to have my friend Christine Murden, on today. And let me tell you a little about Christine. But first of all, Christine, thanks for your willingness to join us. I know you're very busy. We appreciate your time, and I'm excited about our time together today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. So let me tell you a little bit about Christine. She is an American civil engineer who was deputy architect of the U.S. Capitol 2010 to 2018, and then acting architect of the Capitol following the retirement of then architect of the Capitol, Mr. Stephen Ayers. Also a part of this organization, also a good professional and personal friend. Before joining AOC, or the architect of the Capitol's office, as deputy architect, Murden worked in private industry, starting as a project manager and ascending to the role of senior vice president of program and construction management with McKissick and McKissick. Her responsibilities included projects in D.C., Chicago, L.A., and all over. She's been responsible for program and construction management. Get this, more than $15 billion in major projects, and some fun ones too, such as the Washington Nationals Major League Baseball Stadium, the O'Hare Airport out of Chicago and its modernization program, the LA School District, Martin Luther King Memorial, which many of you have seen, and the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of African American History. The list goes on and on. Prior to her work in private industry, Christine was employed by the White House Military Office as a project manager, working in the White House and responsible for managing classified design and construction projects there at the White House and at Camp David and other presidential support facilities. She hails from Kentucky, but her degrees are we both share that commonality. But she received her federal career in 1981, began as a co-op engineering student for the U.S. Navy. She earned her Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Maryland in civil engineering, continued in the Navy. She's got a master's degree also, and the list goes on. And I understand, Christine, you're currently pursuing a PhD. Is that correct?
Yes, that is. At the University of Maryland.
Of course. So she is a University of Maryland stalwart. Go Wildcats and go Bearcats, Christine. Sorry, I couldn't resist. That's our UC and UK places. But anyway, she's had outstanding performance awards throughout. She's a delightful person to talk to, very informative, and we are excited to have her today. Christine, you have been a very unique owner's representative, both in CURT and in the industry. And of course, AOC was a longtime CURT member. Tell us more what it means to be an architect in the Capitol. I think some of our audience may think you are a singular person sitting in a room working on some projects at the Capitol for somebody else, maybe the Speaker of the House. But it's way more complicated and vast than that. Its employee numbers are staggering. Its projects are staggering. Help us know that office a little better.
Thank you. And I think the way you framed it, a lot of people have that assumption. But
Yeah.
the architect of the Capitol is over 200 years old, the agency, and the first person who was the architect of the Capitol was appointed by George Washington. And they're on architect number 13, Lucky 13, Tom Austin. But I had the great opportunity and honor to work for the 11th architect of the Capitol, who was appointed by Barack Obama. They're presidential appointees. I think Tom Austin was congressional appointee, but it's an agency also, in addition to a person. The agency is about 2,500 very talented employees.
Wait a
Responsible
minute. The architect of the Capitol's office has how many employees?
2,500.
I can guarantee you nobody who's listening knows that. It's huge.
Yeah.
Go ahead. This is fascinating.
And they serve Congress and the Supreme Court, and they serve the president because of their involvement in the inauguration, presidential inaugurations. So, in addition to the 2,500 talented employees, there's responsible for over 18 million square feet of buildings, over 500 acres, and the buildings are in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So most people know the buildings, the Capitol, of course, and then also the House and the Senate buildings, the Supreme Court, the Library of Congress, Botanic Gardens, the Capitol Power Plant, and all the associated buildings around there. So, there are 535 members of Congress, 435 in the House, 100 senators in the Senate, and then 9 Supreme Court justices. So we had interface and responsibilities for their offices, for their committee rooms, for their chambers, security, as well as all the visitors who came there, which were millions of visitors a year, visiting the Capitol Visitor Center, visiting the beautiful grounds. We had responsibility for not just the grounds, but the trees. A lot of them are memorial or monumental trees. And then the events, the inauguration, the State of the Union, the Memorial Day conference, the 4th of July concert. I know it's a little bit bigger in DC this year, but the concert on Capitol Hill, we would work very closely with the concert planner. So high pressure job, but I would not change it for the world. It's historic preservation, preserving not only the buildings, but the artwork, the statues. What's interesting, a little fun fact is the documents that are generated by Congress don't go to the National Archives. They go to the Library of Congress. So those documents have to be stored somewhere. So we were responsible for the warehouses where all those documents are stored and making sure that they were well preserved. So it just in a vastness, and not only that, one of the fun things that I had responsibility for that I never think I'd have responsibility for were restaurants. We had responsibility for the 11 Senate restaurants, including like picking the food, picking the menus, picking the pricing. So the type of people that work there are, from the front line, most important, the custodians and the trade workers. We had our own construction organization, about 200 employees that would come in and do construction jobs in addition to the contractors we hired. We had professionals, architects, engineers, accountants, human resources, finances. We had experts, like world-renowned experts, working in the Botanic Garden, the arborist, the historic preservationist for the architect of the Capitol. So it's just a vast amount of responsibility and a wide variety of employees that required a lot of care and making sure that we were doing the right thing so that they could do their job. So whenever I explain this, people are like, what are you talking about?
You should not be the architect of the Capitol, but a title like the Keeper of the Flame of Freedom or something, because it's just a lot of stuff to keep American democracy rolling as it should.
Yes.
What a job.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had a great deal of And you had almost 550 bosses or people who thought they were.
Oh yes, yes, they would definitely express their opinion if
Oh,
their
yeah.
rooms were too cold or things were taking too long or they were disrupted. They were very active in expressing their needs and opinions.
One of the funny stories, and I don't think I'm divulging confidences, that Stephen liked to tell is he got tired of his desk being snagged by one of the congressmen or senators, so he
Yes,
commissioned his own architect of the Capitol's
yes.
desk.
Yeah, they
So
came. I
nobody,
remember. I'm not going to say who it was, but like
me
I remember that.
either.
They came in and took his desk and put, I think, a
Isn't
folding
that
table.
crazy? So you're contending with all these unique experiences, let's call them,
Yeah, they did.
with all these different
They made
personnel.
a beautiful desk.
Yeah, they did make him a beautiful desk. I've seen it, and it's gorgeous. So you've had projects at the U.S. Capitol and at the museum, and you've also worked in private business.
Mhm.
Back to the AOC, by the way, for our listeners, we shorten architect of the Capitol here in the office, oftentimes by simply calling it the AOC, the Architect of the Capitol's office. What leadership lessons often emerge when these stakes are pretty high, very visible, lots of money running on them? What leadership lessons have you learned working in this unique environment, Christine?
I would say the very first thing is take care of your people.
Mm.
Making sure they have, of course, with safety, but making sure they have the tools and the support they need to do the job, that they're prepared to do the job. Making sure that you're communicating, over communicating. There is nothing good about gatekeeping. Nobody benefits from that, but expressing the expectations of the project or the job, expressing the outcome that you want, listening to what the staff and employee needs to get their job done. And then don't be afraid to stop the work if you need to, if there's a safety issue. I mean, there was one project, it was actually the dome project that was high pressure, the dome restoration project.
Right, beautiful.
We had an incident happen and we were on a tight deadline, but we all agreed we're shutting the job down until we figure out how to resolve it. And we were able to resolve it, within by the evening. But making sure that, taking care, safety of your people is number one.
That is so true. We're going to come back to safety in a few minutes, but in terms of the leadership protocol, the leadership experience, before we started the recording, we were talking about the need for collaborative leadership,
Mm-hmm.
not me, you, them, those, us, but an inclusive one. How do you include without bogging down the process so that it feels like it's moving like molasses in wintertime? How do you make it effective and efficient, but inclusive at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Share with us some of your strategies on that, Christine.
I think really making sure that you're listening to your team. I kind of had a rule in meetings. We'd have big meetings, small meetings, but a lot of times if you're the number one or two in an organization, if you're the first one to speak, nobody else is going to, push back. They're going to say that's the world because of the position. I
Yeah,
always,
that's right.
I always spoke last. I always made sure that everybody at the table in the room was heard and their opinion and their concerns were heard. So I think that is number one, bringing the right people in the meeting to make sure that they contribute, making sure that it's not a top down, but it's a bottom up conversation. I always think great leaders hire people that are smarter than themselves. And, we hired a lot of experts and people that were just really wonderfully talented, world renowned. And I would be amiss not to listen to their advice on how to proceed with a project or a job. When we did the dome restoration, it wasn't just one day, let's get it done. It's like we assess it, let's figure out the best way, let's listen to our team, let's research how. And I don't think it bogged down the process. I think we were able to become very efficient. I also think it's important for leaders to walk around, leadership by walking around, because you can get a sense of what's going on the job. If people feel you are approachable, they're going to talk to you about their concerns, and then you're not just hearing something that's filtered, but you're hearing from the workforce actually what's happening. So I think the key is making sure that you keep the communications channels open, recognize that you don't have all the answers, that the answers lie with your team, and listening.
Oh, that's such a golden nugget right there. So you talked about the importance of casting the vision, sharing expectations, providing access to the top, listening well, then make decisions. How did you not, with all those responsibilities you shared a few minutes ago, how did you not get bogged down? I mean, lots of projects are complicated. These data centers, the mega projects that are into the billions now have similar stress points in terms of just 84 things to do and not really, and expecting to juggle them all. What's been your best approach to triage and to building a good team? Help us understand that.
I think really taking a look at the project and see, bringing the right people on the team. And then, I'm going to use the Capitol Dome because everybody knows the dome.
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to discount the other work that was being done, but
Beautiful project, by the way.
yeah, it ended up being a symbol of democracy around the world that's going to shine on July 4th. Making sure we had the right people on the team that could make decisions, bring ideas to the table. We're not going to get bogged down in administration or minutia on that job. So for me, my role as a leader at the top was to hire the right people at the right places and then come up with the right processes. The team contributed to the process on, as far as hiring the contractor, monitoring the contractor, making sure we have the finances, the appropriations set up. So, and that didn't happen overnight. That happened over time. We would, they'd come to the table with ideas. And as we got the job moving and cooking, the reporting structure was really important, focusing on what was on the critical path, productivity. But one of the other things I think is really important is you cannot lead behind a desk. And with the Capitol Dome, before the project started, I started training on a Stairmaster for 3 months.
That is brilliant because I've been up to that dome all the way up there at the top, and that's a haul.
Yeah, well, with the scaffolding, it was even worse. So there was about 30 levels of scaffolding, and I knew that I could not lead behind a desk. So I would go up with a team once or twice a week. And then, we'd be able to, the team was very good about telling me what they needed, what they didn't need from me. And it wasn't about micromanaging, it's just making sure they had the tools that they needed to get the job done. And it also, I was able to be informed. So when members of Congress were asking about it, I could actually give them facts so they wouldn't be interfering with the work that would be done. They wouldn't come up there and ask a lot of questions because I already had the answers to the questions. So I think working closely with the team, and then the reporting, I think we had, I had for agency, I had a corporate performance dashboard, and each of the leaders were able to pull it up. And we did that based on our strategic plan. One of the things I was responsible was for the strategic plan, which was built from the workforce up. But also making sure that we were aligning what we were doing with the strategic plan, because that was the one vision board. So
yeah, that's really. Let's talk workforce for a moment. That seems to be the watchword and song of the industry today. Public or private, big or small, remote or urban. Getting the skilled talent when and where needed, not only skilled trades professionals, but also engineers, CMs, safety people, superintendents. And then you add the overlay of security clearances, some of them top secret security clearances, vetting people in the age of where the nefarious have that Capitol Dome in their crosshairs. What was the approach that really brought the right talent to the right place in the right numbers when it was needed? Was there a peculiar philosophy or approach you used in handling the contractor and influencing its workforce?
So for our own workforce, there were a couple approaches. So one of us for our own workforce, we had to be a great employer that they wanted to come and work for us. that they wanted to come and work for us, and once they got there, they wanted to stay. During the time I was there and worked with Mr. Ayers, the 11th architect of the Capitol, we became one of the best places to work in the federal agency. So we did a lot of employee engagement. Now with the contractor world, having worked for a contractor, I spent 2 years working for Clark Construction, and having worked with many contractors when I was doing projects around the country, one of the things I knew that was really important, we had to be a great partner. It wasn't like, oh, we got to work at the architect of the Capitol because I got great projects. No, we had to be a great partner. We had to be very collaborative. We had to do simple things like pay them on time, making sure that we communicate our upcoming needs. Having worked for a contractor, I know that you just can't bring a team, tomorrow, the A,
Right, that's right.
you're going to get the B team and the C team. But
That's
we ended
right.
up doing some very innovative things with the Cannon project, which was the largest project ever undertaken by the architect of the Capitol, recently completed last year on time.
So we're talking about the Cannon office building.
Yes, yeah. It was
Yeah,
about
yeah. For those of you who may be uninformed, we're not talking about a Cannon over in Arlington. We're talking about the Cannon office building. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was the largest project undertaken. I think it finished right under $1 billion, 14 years, 2-year phases tied to the Congress. So we ended up something we had never done CM at risk or CMC before, but we ended up putting our RFP out for industry review. First time we ever did that, because we knew that we were not the absolute experts on this, but if we get feedback, we ended up getting about 500 comments from industry on the draft review. And when we put it out for final, we only received about 75 comments. But that was being a good partner. That was being transparent. This is what we need from you. This is what we need from industry. In addition to making sure they were getting paid on time, that we're being a good business partner. So with the employees, employee engagement, including communication, and with the contractors, very similarly developing a good relationship with them. We started industry days when we were there to kind of talk about our upcoming programs, what projects we have. So during that time, I think it was transformational for both under Mr. Ayers' leadership.
You talk a lot about Stephen, and he talks a lot about you, and commends your professionalism and can-do spirit and list of many accomplishments. What was the one learning that when you left to start Murden and what's the name of your
Murden
company?
Strategies, yeah.
There you go. I've written it down. I got it down. I just didn't see it right in front of me. Murden Strategies, which we're going to talk about in a minute. What are some of the best learnings that you've gleaned from your time, particularly at the Capitol?
I think leadership is one. I asked Stephen when I started, what did he want his legacy to be? And he said, I wanted it to be that we took care of our employees. And that kind of transmitted and translated to everything that we did. And I think the servant leadership attitude probably is one that really stuck. I am here not for my game, but to serve you. No matter what position you have, I want to serve, making sure that, we treat you well, that you have the resources you need, that if you have challenges, we address it. If you want upward mobility, we figure out ways to get you trained up. While I was at the Architect of the Capitol, we developed this apprentice program called AMP. And we had a floor care refinisher, nighttime floor care refinisher, that ended up participating in this apprentice program. He wanted to be an architect. And he ended up working with our project management team. And then we ended up having a student loan repayment program. So he ended up getting the experience by being an apprentice at the end for a period of time. These were short temporary stints. And then getting it paid for by his student loan repayment program. And now he's an architect currently working for the Architect of the Capitol, going from a floor care refinisher. So that's, that is, giving people an opportunity to achieve their dreams, I think was really important.
How do you, achieving that is absolutely, and our hats off to you and your predecessor and your successor, whom you speak very highly of.
Yes.
Hats off to you folks for that. How do you balance in that kind of historic setting innovation and modernization along with preservation and legacy? So on one hand, you have the push for new, better, different, and then the other hand, same, historic, preserve, retain. Talk to us a little bit about the tug of war, maybe a little healthy tension that those two interests create.
Yeah, and it is healthy tension. There are so many things, when I came there that we wanted to do and so many exciting initiatives. But I think, one of the things I was charged with as the deputies was in law, as the statute is I had to start the strategic plan. And we did. Ended up having, like I said, grassroots, 2,500 employees contribute to the strategic plan, identify the goals and the actions of the strategic plan, and then, being able to share with them and measure it. So that way we had priorities within the organization, one team, one mission, extraordinary, workforce, best place to there was 4 of them that were outstanding, but that was grassroots driven. So being able to prioritize what was important, preservation and security and safety, and then taking initiatives, purposeful initiatives, and saying, we're going to do something a little, modernize how we do facility management. How do we use our iPhone to actually replace these tickets that we get, that a work request order can come from a carpenter, and that can come to his iPhone, that which we ended up using in iPads, and then they can take a picture of the work that they did, and that work is done. And then sometimes our employees would come up with their own ideas, and one of the things we did is we wanted our employees to challenge the norm. I used to love to do the employee orientations. I was like, I want to speak to the new employees, because one of the messages that I wanted to say is challenge the norm. We've been around here for over 200 years, and challenging the norm. If you have a better idea, bring it to your supervisor. Or we had employee feedback sessions, Mr. Ayers and I did, where we would have small groups, about 20, 30 employees, and we would ask them questions. What would you do if you were architect for the day? And we had some really great ideas come through, a lot of them that we actually ended up implementing.
Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah, so I think from the agency strategic to be in, putting that message out to challenge the norm, and then letting people make those changes, and participate in a pilot program, or say, like I said, you always want to hire people smarter than yourself, and making sure that we would take their recommendations and implement them. And so we had some really wonderful initiatives. So hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It does. So obviously, you were the first female deputy architect of the Capitol. Congratulations on that. And I assume the first acting architect of the Capitol. I don't know if they get your portrait up there in the hallway, like with the rest of the cats or not. Maybe, but that's a different cup of coffee. Let's talk a little bit about the role of women in construction in general. We did a study at CURT about 10 years ago, and the study indicated that only 11 to 14%, depending on the area of the country and maybe the kind of demographic they were looking at, only 11 to 14% of women were involved in our industry, yet you represent 50% of its population. Most recently, they conducted a very similar study, and shockingly, the results were about the same. We may have picked one or two further up toward the 14, but still shockingly low. What are we going to do about this? Largely, I don't think they're ignored. I just think there's special barriers to entry, or concerns that the industry is slow to adopt when it comes to women's presence in the industry. Talk to us a little bit about your personal philosophy about it, and if the AOC's office did anything about it. I'm sure they did, knowing the personalities that I know there. Women in construction. What are we going to do to get them more engaged, Christine?
Well, I think it's getting better. I think when I was in engineering school, many times I was the only female in the room.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I think when I graduated, only 6% women were engineers. So before COVID, I think it was about 10% women in construction. And there were some changes during COVID because of the flexibility that women were starting to get. So I am a working mother. My daughter is, flown the nest. She's 23, but I understand the challenges faced when you're raising a child,
Yeah.
having to get to daycare, having to, take time off if they're sick, and so forth. So we're seeing an increase. There's Women in Construction Organization, National Association of Women in Construction. There's this new publication that I am excited about. It's called Move Over Bob, and it means Bob the Builder, but it's not like it means make space.
Yeah, make room for me. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's targeted at middle and high school students because I think when you go to a high school career counselor, I don't think they're going to tell a young lady about you have a great career in construction, and it is a fantastic career. And let me tell you a little bit why. So many women who are not, and I'm specifically looking at the trades, because there are women like who are in administrative roles or in executive roles or leadership roles. But the trades, I think there's such an opportunity. So what we're finding is if a woman is has a high school degree, she may end up going to the service industry like hotels or restaurants and make a certain amount of money. However, if she goes into construction, is trained in a trade like plumbing or equipment operator, that elevates her earning potential significantly. Instead of making $25,000-$30,000 a year in a service industry, she can make over $100,000 and then have a job, project after project after project, that the continued employment, and that benefits not only her but her family as far as security, insurance, job security. But you have to make the culture welcoming. We're going to talk a little bit about the construction culture, I'm sure, to
Yeah.
women, and making sure that they're accepted, that there's, addressing sexual harassment or hostile work environments. But I think I see organizations doing that. And, just encouraging the women to go into the trades because, like I said, it gives them financial security for them and their families.
And no debt
Yeah, yeah.
for your training.
Yeah,
Typically, I
exactly. A
mean,
lot of,
no
there
debt for
are
your training.
apprentice programs out there that are recruiting. I know personally I'm seeing more women on construction jobs, working in the field. I always enjoyed working on a construction project. Always working in the field was exciting for me. So I think there is an opportunity. And also giving women flexibility. They found during COVID that not everybody needed to be on site. That was the thing. Everybody's got to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning till, 5 o'clock at night. Not necessarily. Schedulers and other positions there don't have to be on site. And then that gives women, and I think that the work week has been more flexible, which attracts more women. So I see it as promising, the flexibilities and, the culture change to attract more women, and then getting to them younger as far as letting them know what they can be doing in the industry.
Exactly. I think the other thing that helps attract, in addition to the flexibility and the culture that you mentioned, coming back to that in just a minute, is the use of technology.
Yes.
It's not just shovels and picks
Yeah,
and hammers and nails. It's iPads and computers and drones and other kinds.
robotic.
Talk to us about where you see technology emerging and being increasingly used in our business and at the Capitol's office.
So I think just in general, I think there's the technology as far as the iPads and the iPhones were extraordinarily transformational as far as getting work done. With the Capitol Dome, we had RFID tags on the different components of the dome. And then as they were being restored and refurbished, we were able to track where they were, and then we were able to track productivity with that too, with that technology. But I think today, the use of AI, AI should not replace a person as far as oversight. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
That's right.
But the use of AI to, review reports, to review trends, that's another ability that we have. Robotics, I think, is really important. One use of AI that I've been impressed with is the use of AI on safety analysis of a job site. You can take a photo of a job site and it can do an analysis of the safety risk that you have. So I think, and then also some of the wearables that employees are, wear, as far as, making sure they're using safe motions when they're moving, not hurting their back, because, that's soft tissue injuries are really bad. And then slip, trips, and falls are also, how can we prevent that? And, I think what I saw during COVID, one of the projects we had was Austin, and when I was with McKissick, back to McKissick, we used a remote camera that was tied to the blueprints, the job. So we were able to see where the camera was when we couldn't have some people on the job site. We were able to go back and see what progress was on the job. So I think that was called Open World, if I remember. But, those are kind of incredible opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely they are. And, this might be a good time to tell our listener, if you haven't heard about it yet, about Kurt's response to AI. And by the way, we're calling it augmented human intelligence, not artificial, because it's not artificial. And it is intelligence, but it requires human control. So we're calling it augmented intelligence or augmented human intelligence. And what we've done at Kurt is over the last 5 years, we've taken every PowerPoint, every benchmarking survey, every white paper, every blueprint for improvement, whether it was safety or modularization, every panel discussion, every conference that had a PowerPoint or was recorded with a speaker, every magazine article, about 20 to 30,000 different elements, and we have created something called the Kurt Solutions Portal, powered by the platform called Commodore. And it brings all of this stuff. You can ask it in any language, a question. It will scour all of our content. It's traceable. It doesn't hallucinate, which is one of the big criticisms of Claude and ChatGPT. It's just our stuff. It takes you sites to it. We've overlaid the OSHA regulations to it. So it will also bring up the relative or the corresponding OSHA regulations, give you a citation to that. And we're excited about it. It is free to every Kurt member organization, not just its rep, but every Kurt member organization. It's also being explored and evaluated by other organizations that I'm not really free to share with right now. But if you'd like to learn more about the Kurt Solutions Portal, powered by Commodore, we invite you to call the office, send us an email. We'll set up a demo. And remember, it's also part of the value proposition for you being a part of Kurt. Consider it a consultant in your pocket for all of our information. What drove that is that we discovered that 9 hours a week is spent in researching information you already have access to. A lot of wasted time. The second thing we discovered is that for any conference attendee, a summit, some sort of event off site, you retain only about 30% of what you learned there. How many times have we been to conferences and people are taking snapshots of a particular PowerPoint slide to send them off or whatever? And we have made those things easily traceable when you need them 2 weeks from then. You say, yeah, I heard something at a conference, and let's check this out. So CSP, the Kurt Solutions Portal, powered by Commodore. Learn more about it at kurt.org/CL. One of the things that I wanted to hit on before we run out of time, Christine, is the importance of safety in construction. I think that's one of the barriers, not only for women, but for men also. People want to work in a safe site. They want to be able to refresh when it's 95 degrees like it is here in Cincinnati today, or when it's cold. They want to warm. And another particular element that has seen an emergence in recent years, it's always been there, but it's been stigmatized, and that is mental wellness and construction, particularly suicide prevention. I heard an interesting stat, and I think it came from the Center for Disease Control, and I don't watch them, but somewhere between 11 and 1,300 deaths in construction each year, but 5,000 plus suicides each year in our industry. Why? We've got to address it. We've got to pull it out of the closet. We've got to shed some light on it. Then most importantly, we've got to do something about it. Talk to us about your concept of mental wellness and this particular issue as it relates to our industry.
Sure, I appreciate you bringing that up. A couple things. I am getting my PhD in civil engineering, but my thesis is on what leadership needs to do in the construction industry to reduce mental health and suicide issues. I'm also a member of the National Academy of Construction, and I'm on the safety committee, but I'm the subcommittee chair for mental health and well-being at the National Academy of Construction. So you are correct. For every one death on a project site, there are 5 deaths by suicide. Not only that, there are 14 deaths by opioid overdose. So we are killing over 22 people from one death, or 22,000 people a year in the construction industry. And so the National Academy of Construction has made this a priority in their strategic plan. So the National Academy of Construction has resources. We have some great podcasts. We have the national experts now in the National Academy of Construction focus on this. Some good friends of mine, Cal Byers, one of them. So Cal's great. Cal's wonderful. And also Brett Darnell is another person who was just inducted. I was inducted in 2019, but Cal was last year, and Brett Darnell for leaders in this area. So the first thing to address this is awareness. And I thank you for bringing this up, because I've talked to so many people that don't know about it. I also, me included, have been personally impacted by somebody dying, taking their own life. When I was at the Capitol, there was a young man who took his own life, mechanical engineer, no sign that there was a problem, and he took his own life. And I was, always said, what could I have done about it? So there's good news. Good news this year that this awareness is actually reducing it. There's good news from leaders of large construction companies. I want to do a shout out to Turner, Bechtel, Clark. I think Bechtel gave $8 million, the largest donation ever to the American Society of Suicide Prevention. And good things are happening with organizations, making it more aware. The statistics is very much aligned with the military. They have the same statistic for every one death, 5 times the amount are dying. Interestingly, Australia, in addressing this, is about 10 years ahead of us. In the early 2000s, they started a program called MATES, MATES, in construction, and they're seeing a reduction in suicide. This year, at the beginning of this year, the MATES organization, in partnership with Quanta, has started a pilot program around the country at different sites to institute their program, which talks about, it's a 4-step program: awareness, mitigation. They understand, I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, but what's my role here? And also talking about what their role is. So there are some more awareness to this. There's pilot programs. We're seeing a reduction in opioid use and opioid deaths. And we all saw a slight reduction in suicide last year. Just even talking about it and taking away the stigma. The Construction Industry Association of Suicide Prevention was started by the Construction Finance Management Association. They saw this as a risk, financial risk for the industry. It's more importantly, a people risk. But they have great resources. There's a Construction Industry Suicide Prevention Week in September. I hope everybody participates in. You can sign up, and there's a number of Initiatives on the American Society of Suicide Prevention focus specifically on construction, because out of all industries, we're ranked number 2 as far as suicide deaths, mining being number 1. Mining is closely related to construction. So there's resources, there's progress being made in the reduction, but it all goes back to leadership and culture, how we're showing up, how we're treating our people. We realize they're people that have families, that have outside concerns, and then that we do a better job collectively on how we treat each other.
Well said. If you only got that kind of encouragement for this podcast, it was worth listening to this point. I really commend your leadership at the National Academy as well as other organizations. I think that when people see it brought out of the closet and not stigmatized, but equal to physical wellness and well-being, on par with that, it encourages them to share. And I heard somebody say recently in one of our podcasts, it was an association exec, he said, our job is to help our members not to fix it, but to intervene, to be a friend, to be a listening ear, and to have resources that they can offer their friend.
Yes.
And sharing. And so intervention, he alleged, was their greatest contribution to prevention, with their members and their employees of those member organizations. And I think that was a good point as well. How do we recognize the signs of it? How do we step up and intervene in a very caring, compassionate, professional way, right?
Yeah, a lot of times you don't see the signs. I mean, I shared with you the young man, I spoke to his mother, and she said there were no signs. He had bought a new pair of black slacks and shaving razors, and she goes, there were no signs at all. But
how old was he, curiously, Christine?
I'm sorry, what?
How old was he? Was
24.
he in his 20s?
24.
And you're seeing that more and more among the younger people, too.
Yeah.
It has no demographic exclusivity. It is a trend.
Yeah, and I think there are different pressures, but I do think there is an opportunity just to ask, how are you doing? There are probably some leading indicators, or lagging indicators, about absenteeism, different near miss, it tends to be like one. But I do think just keep it. I think Brett Darnell wrote a book, but I think the main thing is be vulnerable yourself, to talk about. I don't have a great day every day. If I'm having a bad day, I try to talk to somebody, and making sure that people know that there's somewhere safe to go. Some construction organizations, I think Mortensen is creating physical space on project sites to go to, where people need to kind of take a minute. They can go to these rooms that let me just kind of decompress. So I commend the construction industry for addressing this, especially the large general contractors, because they're at the tip of the shovel with this. But I think, if people are going back to their job site, working with their team, that ask them how they're doing, be vulnerable yourself, because if you're vulnerable yourself, you engender trust, and then people may feel comfortable coming to you to assist out. But I think everybody has a role in fixing this and addressing it. And but go to the 2 sites: American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and the Construction Industry Association for Suicide Prevention. They both have websites that have lots of resources, tool talks, and then MATES, MATES in construction, also has great, even though they're an Australian company, they have probably the most research of all organizations that I have found in the world about research and resources.
Wonderful. Right there is another golden nugget for us. This is fascinating. Tell us a little bit about Murden and Associates.
Yeah, Murden Strategies.
Murden Strategies.
Yes. We provide owners advisory, strategic planning, and program management. And what I think we end up doing more is working with the owners on sticky issues.
Now, where can we access more information on Murden Strategies? Do you have a website?
It's www.murdenstrategies, Strategies.
D is in dog.
Yeah, Murden, Merdon,
D.
as name Merdon, strategies.com. So that has the ability to find out a little bit more about me, about what we do, and love to hear from you. Love to hear what you all have going on in the rest of the world. It's challenging times,
Yeah.
but there's some great things that we can do together. It's been fun working with the clients I've worked for.
Wonderful. And it's been fun having a podcast with Christine today.
Oh, it's been
And
fun to work with you and your friends.
it's been a lot of fun. It really has. You've been listening to Construction Connection, powered by Kurt. We've been talking to Christine Murden, whose bio is too long to recite at the end of this podcast. So you have to rewind and go listen to the beginning where I tell you a little bit more about it. Or better yet, Murden Strategies, Merdon Strategies, all one word.com. Will tell you all you want to know about it. Mm-hmm. Christine, any final thoughts you want to leave with our listening and viewing audience today?
First of all, thank you for coming. And, Kurt.
Oh, it's a joy.
Kurt is such a great organization. I know I've gotten value from it. I know my leaders that I work for have gotten value. Parting words, stay safe. It's a tough industry, but I think, we all taking care of ourselves is going to be important. Bringing people in that don't look like you to come and do the work, inviting women to come and do the work, keeping an open mind for that benefited me. And hopefully it'll benefit you too.
Fantastic. It's been a joy talking to you, Christine. Once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the force of your personality and the richness, the sharing of your rich experiences. It's been a real delight. Sounds pious. I mean it sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And so you've been listening to Construction Connection, powered by Kurt, and we'll catch you on our next episode. Thanks for joining us.